Alrighty, looks like we are live. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Let me share my screen real quick. All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos. We're going to take a look at what happened to Melissa Hortman and John Hoffman out of Minnesota, and also these No Kings protests, which are connected to it. And we're basically going to talk about what the hell's going on and the wickedness, really, of the Democratic Party. I mean, it's basically evil, right? There's no denying that now. And of course, they use things like Black Lives Matter, illegal immigration, things like that. Robin says it's not wickedness. It's absolutely wickedness. You think they give a shit about illegal immigrants? They're only using them for votes. They're pandering to them. Seems like we're living in the summer of 2020 all over again. Yes, Black Lives Matter. Remember, they burned down Minnesota? And look where all the crazy shit's happening in Minnesota again. Right. They're having protests all over the United States. You think these people are just motivated? They're like, oh my God, I care so much about illegal immigrants. We got to take to the streets. No, these people are paid by billionaires who want to remain in power. These guys are all paid. Some of them are just emotional, radicalized Democrats, which really is what the whole party is about. It's about exploiting people who are already kind of marginalized. That's all part of the ideological subversion. That's what these people are, victims of ideological subversion that's been going on for over 20 years. They are a generation of victims, manipulated and exploited. That's how ideological subversion works. Like I said, not all. You know, the majority of the organizers are all paid. Some are just people who are easily manipulated. That sounds like you, Robin, unfortunately. She Warrior, George Soros. Absolutely. Okay, so what happened today at about 2 a.m.? Who is Melissa Hortman? The former Minnesota House Speaker and her husband Mark were fatally shot at their home in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota on June 14th, 2025, in what Governor Tim Walz described as a politically motivated assassination. So Democrats were killed by other Democrats because of the way that they voted. They voted against providing health care to illegal immigrants. That's why they were murdered by the wicked left. That's what they do. Nobody wants to talk about it, but that is the truth. The attack occurred around 3:35 a.m. following an earlier shooting at the home of State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette in Champlain around 2 a.m. The suspect, identified as 57-year-old Vance Bolter, was impersonating a police officer and driving a fake police vehicle. He also had flyers in his car for today's protest that said "No Kings." So apparently Robin doesn't believe that that's wicked. You don't think it's wicked for Democrats to kill fellow Democrats based off the way they voted? Seems pretty wicked to me. All the people that you see in the streets are people that hate the United States, and they just need something to gravitate to, whether it's Black Lives Matter or illegal immigration. They just don't have, they're not patriots. Robin, when have you ever heard of a Republican doing something like this? They're not bloodthirsty for power like that. That's why we're having this live stream, because this is just showing you the wickedness of the far left, or the left in general. The whole party, the same party that created the Ku Klux Klan, that was for slavery. Now all of a sudden you guys are acting like you care about illegal immigrants. You don't care about shit. Obviously, you don't know anything about the Oklahoma City bombing. That was a CIA operation all the way. It is pure evil. You think these guys are all just motivated? Only the idiots come out here when they see all these people flocking. This is an organized political movement. These people aren't motivated because Donald Trump's a wicked man and he's a king. That's not what's going on here. You're naive if you believe that. Julia, bricks, concrete blocks just happened to show up in Seattle. Yeah, just like in 2020. Interview with lady in Seattle, asked why she was there, and she said to promote democracy. What lady didn't even know why she was there? Exactly. The majority of these people are paid. Yeah, bye, Robin. Bye. Go cry somewhere else. What's up, Jay Ray? Firefly, people need to get a hobby or read a book or some tea. Yeah, they're bored. Let's go out and protest today. Fuck Donald Trump. Orange man bad. Okay, let's take a look at the press conference that happened today.
Being here. In a moment, you'll hear from law enforcement officials who will share with you what they can as up-to-minute update on the situation here in Minnesota. You're going to be joined by Commissioner Bob Jacobson, BCA Superintendent Drew Evans, State Patrol Colonel Christina Bogoyevich, Champlain Park Police Chief Snyder, and Brooklyn Park Police Chief Mark Bruley, as well as the mayor of Brooklyn Park. We're here today because an unspeakable tragedy has unfolded in Minnesota. My good friend and colleague, Speaker Melissa Hortman, and her husband, Mark.
Just keep in mind, the person who killed these people, or killed two and attempted to kill two others, also has a kill list and a manifesto with 70 names on it. The person responsible for those murders this morning worked for Tim Walz. I think it's inappropriate for him to be commenting at this time.
Were shot and killed early this morning in what appears to be a politically motivated assassination.
Right. This is the same guy, him and Kamala Harris, who were bonding out people who were lighting Minnesota on fire in the BLM riots. These guys were bailing them out of jail for them to go right back out and do more damage. He has no right to be speaking up here. He's partly responsible for this. The way that him and his fellow Democrats have charged up all the rhetoric and the atmosphere for Democrats and radicalizing them, really.
Our state lost a great leader, and I lost a dearest of friends.
Democrats are the party of mental health issues. They exploit people that are vulnerable to this kind of manipulation.
Speaker Hortman was someone who served the people of Minnesota with grace, compassion, humor, and a sense of service. She was a formidable public servant, a fixture and a giant in Minnesota. She woke up every day determined to make this state a better place. She is irreplaceable, and we've been missed by so many. Minnesota's thoughts and prayers are with her family, her loved ones, her children, and her parents.
Now, Melissa was killed because she voted against providing health care to undocumented adults, not children. Children are still covered. Undocumented adults. And before the vote, I'm going to show you a press conference that took place where everybody was getting all emotional and making it seem like people were being attacked, targeted by these votes. It's all just manipulation, guys. The only reason they care about illegal immigrants is that's their votes. Illegal immigrants vote Democratic. And most Black Americans used to vote Democratic. A lot of them voted for Donald Trump this time around, thank God. And so did a lot of Mexican Americans.
My prayers also go out to State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette, who were each shot multiple times. The Hoffmans are out of surgery at this time and receiving.
Kelly says they don't pay in. Well, they do pay in. They pay in a lot, but it's not marginal. They pay in quite a bit. But that's really not the point. They put a lot of unnecessary pressure on our systems, education, medical, things like that aren't needed. And it's sad to see people only caring about illegal immigrants and kind of exploiting people's emotions just so that they can stay in power and gain power through their votes. Why do you think Joe Biden opened the borders? That was his way of winning this last election, and it didn't work.
And we are cautiously optimistic they will survive this assassination attempt. This was an act of targeted political violence.
And most Democrats are happy that these Democrats were attacked today, right? Teach them a lesson. This is how they work. This is why I'm calling them wicked, because they are wicked, right? They're hoping that this will teach the others a lesson. Do you want to be just like Melissa, or do you want to do what we tell you to do?
Peaceful discourse is the foundation of our democracy.
Celia says, how do they pay taxes if they don't have Social Security? They pay into Social Security. They pay into all of these things that they will never benefit from. But the cost outweighs what they pay into, not by a whole lot. They pay in billions. You know, it's quite a bit. They pay into Social Security, they pay into Medicare, and they will never, ever have access to that stuff. But the truth is that low-skilled jobs, which Americans need, are being filled by these folks. And they're only being paid about 40% of what they should be being paid.
Don't settle our differences with violence or at gunpoint. In the state of Minnesota, and as recently as last week,
they pay in with sales tax. They pay into Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and they will never, ever have access to any of those. So they do pay in a lot, not as much as the taxpayer pays out because of them, but it's pretty close.
In the most closely divided state legislature in the country, we sat down, we worked things out, we debated, we shook hands and compromised.
And that's really what it's about, Celia. It's about following the rules of law. Also, let's take a look at something real quick. I thought I had. Okay. Here it is. So as of January of 2025, the United States has approximately 53.3 million foreign-born residents, representing 15.8% of the total U.S. population. This figure includes legal immigrants, such as lawful permanent residents, naturalized citizens, refugees, asylees, and those with long-term non-immigrant visas, like international students or temporary workers. In 2023, about 73% of immigrants in the United States held permanent legal status or long-term non-immigrant visas. So we don't have an immigrant problem. We just have people who are trying to exploit the whole illegal immigrant conversation, right? When it's common sense. But if they can get you emotionally charged, they can manipulate you. And that's what they're doing. They're telling you once they get you all emotional and radicalized, they convince you to go hit the streets, go out there in the streets and protest.
And we serve the state of Minnesota together. We proved that it's possible, even in these politically charged times, to find compromise and adhere to the principles of democracy and civil discourse. We must all, Minnesota and across the country, stand.
It's not the way it works, Celia. If you're working in the U.S. and you get a check, it would bring more attention if you didn't pull out Social Security and Medicaid like you do everybody else. They don't have control over that. If you're getting paid by a business, those things are going to automatically come out of your check.
And against all forms of political violence. At this precipice moment we're on, this tragic act here in Minnesota should serve as a reminder to all of us. The democracy and the debates in the halls of Congress, in state houses, in school boards, is a way to settle our differences peacefully and move society to a better place. We're collaborating with all local, state, and federal agencies on a full investigation. We're committed to keeping Minnesotans informed as the situation continues. I assure you that those responsible for this will be held accountable.
Okay, so there's a manhunt underway for Bolter, who fled on foot after exchanging gunfire with police at Hortman's residence. Investigators found a manifesto in the suspect's vehicle listing various lawmakers. Now, we're talking about a Democrat here who is targeting Democrats for not voting the way he wanted them to. So it's like we're in a civil war here. Including Hortman and Hoffman indicated the attacks were premeditated. A shelter-in-place order was issued in Brooklyn Park, and authorities have urged the public to report suspicious activity. Hortman, a prominent Democrat who served in the Minnesota House since 2005, was remembered as a dedicated public servant who championed issues like the free school lunches and reproductive rights. Tributes have poured in from colleagues, including Senator Amy Klobuchar and DNC Chair Ken Martin, mourning her loss and impact on Minnesota politics. CJK, refused to use undocumented. The term wants to be normalized illegal immigration and deflect attention away from the fact that illegal immigration is a crime and not a victimless one. No, not at all. But let's say you're married to a Mexican man or a Hispanic woman, or your grandmother on your mom's side is Hispanic. You're going to feel all emotional. They're attacking my grandma, man. No, they're not. Nobody's attacking your grandma. You're a fucking idiot. You're naive. All right. Where do we want to go from here? Okay, let's see. What we know. Okay, lawmaker killed. Minnesota State Rep Melissa Hortman, the top Democrat in the Minnesota House, and her husband were shot and killed early this morning in what appears to be a politically motivated assassination. Second targeted, Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman and his wife were also shot by the same individual. They have undergone surgery and are alive. So they're expected to survive. What officials are calling a manifesto were found in the suspect's car. Identifying many lawmakers and other officials was found when law enforcement searched the vehicle of the suspect wanted in the assassination of Hortman, according to police. So this is what was found in the vehicle. So if you don't think that this is wicked, organized wickedness, then you're most likely part of it. That's why. You most likely agree with it. So today, the whole No Kings, it's Donald Trump's birthday. I think there's a military parade scheduled today. So they're just pandering to potential voters, and they hate America. So let's get into the whole ideological subversion and what that means. What is that? Right? Yep. And that's slave labor, too. That is slave labor. Okay. Ideological subversion is a process aimed at undermining society's core beliefs, values, and institutions to weaken or destabilize it. So, what we're seeing here right now from the Democrats is basically an act of war against the United States. These are enemies of the state here. Democrats, they are mostly socialist, communist, and they really deep down they hate the United States of America. They hate capitalism. They want to change the culture and the fabric of our nation. And it's because they've become victims of ideological subversion. And what is that? So it's a process aimed at undermining society's core beliefs, values, and institutions to weaken or destabilize it, often without overt violence. It typically involves gradually infiltrating and manipulating key cultural, political, educational, or media systems to shift public perception and erode trust in established norms. I mean, that is directly from the Democratic playbook. And anybody that's out there supporting this bullshit, you're not supporting the future of America. You're supporting America's demise. That's what this is all about. Destroying the culture of a nation and stealing their patriotism from them generationally. The concept is often associated with psychological warfare or covert influence operations. You know, like Hollywood, sports, how you have China involved in all of that shit, which is a communist nation, which is probably behind all of this. Historically linked to tactics used during the Cold War, such as those described by former KGB defector Yuri Bezmenov. And I have a video on him we might be able to watch. Oh, and today is the 250 years birthday of the U.S. Army. That is true. Okay, Bezmenov outlined 4 stages of ideological subversion, starting with demoralization. And tell me this isn't exactly what's going on with the Democrats. Demoralization, undermining moral and cultural values, often through education and media, to create confusion and weaken societal cohesion. This can take decades, right? It takes multiple generations. You have to corrupt the parents, and then the parents will then indoctrinate the children into this subversion. Destabilization, exploiting divisions to create economic, political, or social crisis, making the system vulnerable. Does that sound familiar? So if you're taking part in the No Kings protest, you are a victim of ideological subversion, and you've been convinced to hate yourself and your own country. Snap out of it. Come on. Crisis, provoking a major event or tipping point that demands radical change, often leading to power shifts, kind of like the BLM riots. And that's what they're trying to do here with the No Kings. They don't think Donald Trump is a king. They just know that the illegal immigrants will love that. And they'll vote Democrat and bring them back into power. Normalization, establishing a new ideological framework as the accepted norm, often under the guise of stability. The goal is to replace existing ideologies with ones that align with the subverter's agenda, kind of like the Bolshevik Revolution. That's the same thing that happened to the Soviet Union. twice almost, often without the target population realizing the manipulation until it's entrenched. That's where we are right now. We are entrenched in this. So whoever is targeting us and the people of the United States with ideological subversion, they've been doing it for over 20 years, and we are now well entrenched in it. And we're seeing the fruits of it now, right? Um, so anybody that's supporting this, you can go fuck off, honestly. Examples might include spreading disinformation, amplifying social divisions, or co-opting institutions to promote alternative narratives. While Bezmenov's framework is rooted in Soviet-era tactics, the term is sometimes used today to describe perceived efforts by various groups, domestic or foreign, to influence societal values through media, academia, or activism. Most of our top colleges have been completely subverted. You go in there and you think you're learning something, but it's really like some kind of weird race theory. You know, it's some kind of democratic talking point or something. You're not really learning anything in these schools anymore. You're learning how to be a far lefty, is what it is. College is crap now, unfortunately. It's become political. Mustang, happy birthday, U.S. Army. Yeah, I mean, they're trying to do in the United States exactly what they did in Russia. And it's never worked. Right now, China is a very powerful country, but their people are not treated, go live in China. That's what the Democrats are trying to turn the United States into. A place like China, where there really is no freedom. What's up, Paradox? All right, I'm all over the place here. So let's look into the killer, Vance Bolter. Let's learn a little bit about him. And then we'll look at the Minnesota Care for illegal immigrants that got Melissa Hortman. She voted along with the Republicans and they killed her for it. And we'll talk about that too. But first, let's see. I thought I had notes on him. I guess not. Must not have saved him. So Vance Bolter worked with Tim Walz, who was running for vice president. Vance Bolter, EDD, is CEO of Redline Group based in the Democratic Republic of Congo. He is also CEO of Praetorian Guard Security Services based in Minnesota. Majored in international relations for his undergraduate degree at St. Cloud State University in Minnesota. He holds his Master's of Science. So, right, he's your typical Democratic leader. Becoming radicalized. These people are wicked. What's up, She Warrior? Okay. Let's go to this press conference that was held on the 9th. And I think the vote went through on the 10th. This is pretty long. It's 32 minutes long, but it's interesting to watch these Democrat leaders in Minnesota try to manipulate their viewers. They're trying to exploit them, trying to convince them that if you don't vote a certain way, you're killing people. And really, all they're talking about is illegal immigrants. It's illegal, you idiots. And we have plenty of legal immigrants. So this isn't a racial thing. Wicked. That's the only word that comes to mind, Kelly. Watch. And here's proof. They know exactly what they're doing, yet they continue to do it.
Buenos dias. Good morning, Minnesota.
Buenos dias. Come on.
I'm Representative Maria Isa Perez Vega, proudly serving the capital city of St. Paul's District 65B here in St. Paul. As vice chair of our Posse Caucus, I stand in solidarity with my colleagues and the people who call this indigenous Dakota Anishinaabe land home. We gather today as elected officials to address the harsh realities of policy and enforcement targeting our immigrant neighbors, family members, friends, union workers, and community.
So they call them immigrants. They're not immigrants. They are illegal immigrants. Right? So therefore, they're already being misleading. We're not talking about people that are just coming over here to work the fields, right? We're talking about a whole plethora of type of people, drugs, violence, and a small majority of those people happen to be peaceful. And like I told you earlier on in the live stream, the amount of illegals that we actually have in the country right now, as of January 25th, is approximately 53.3 million. That's 15.8% of the total U.S. population, guys. This has nothing to do with immigration. Right? She keeps calling them immigrants, but they're not immigrants. They're illegal immigrants. Which is criminal. They've entered their time in the United States as a criminal.
Community organization partners. We aim to advocate and stand alongside our immigrant communities who face extreme challenges that threaten their livelihoods, particularly with the repeal of undocumented health care. What we are witnessing as a nation and in our state are MAGA tactics.
MAGA tactics.
And politicians who have lost sight of humanity.
See, this is all
as
manipulation.
The GOP and leadership continue to negotiate and support laws that disassociate health and humanity, we want to address our concerns and commit to fighting for equity in our Posse Caucus. These laws do not make Minnesota better. They dehumanize and they discriminate the people who contribute significantly to our state, this year paying over $222 million in taxes.
Which is true. They do pay in a lot, but they cost the taxpayer more than they put in. Not by a whole lot. But they do put unnecessary strain on our education, our medical institutions, things like that.
The laws that are being repealed traumatize children, telling them their parents' and grandparents' lives do not matter. The use of military-style tactics during raids, such as the one on Lake Street that we witnessed.
So you're going to have a Democrat who's already emotional, already suffering from mental health, which most of them do, issues, right? Listening to this and becoming mad, getting angry.
Last week contributes to that fear and tension. That's not healthy. The rhetoric and increased enforcement actions create a climate of fear in our comunidades, scarring neighborhoods and traumatizing individuals, whether you're documented or not.
All bullshit. The only thing that happens is the person that was here illegally gets upset, and they might be a little bit traumatized because they're not supposed to be here anyway. So then they get deported. That's it. Now they don't get health care in Minnesota. They shouldn't be getting health care to begin with. They're here illegally. Now, remember, the only reason these people are even talking about illegal immigrants is because that is their key voter. It's all about power.
Every time we begin our floor session, we pledge allegiance, concluding with the phrase, with liberty and justice for all. Regardless of birthplace, language, faith, citizenship.
Regardless of birthplace. Okay, let's just say right now we were like, everybody in the entire world, you're allowed to come into the United States. Does that seem like a place that's going to remain the United States? No. So everything that she's saying is flawed.
Citizenship status. Human beings deserve dignity and respect, accessible, preventive, and life-saving medical care. It is unfortunate that leadership's decision to repeal
Kelly, it's not delusional, it's tactical. They don't believe anything that they're saying. They're part of this cult. And look what happens. If you vote against them, they'll kill you. They will literally kill you. They will riot in the streets. They will burn police cars. For what? Absolutely something that is common sense, right? If you're in the country illegally, you should be deported. You shouldn't be coming here illegally. Has nothing to do with immigration and has everything to do with crime and exhausting all of our resources.
healthcare for undocumented community members do not respect our values of standing for that liberty and justice for all. Our Posse Caucus stand with our immigrant communities at the front lines and are working together tirelessly.
Oh, let's go to a super chat. Thank you, Julia. I commend you for shedding light on the facts that mainstream media does not. So much respect for you, Sleuth. Yeah, because I pay the price every time, Julia. So I really appreciate your support.
Here in these chambers to fight not for charity, but for justice for all. We stand committed to continued challenges and we will not stop. No paramos. We will not give up fighting to save everyone's lives. As someone who lives with a chronic illness every day, I know what it's like when you have to determine, am I going to be alive tomorrow? Or the government going to make these decisions on if my life depends?
That's for illegal immigrants. This lady is, she's devious, really. Devious.
Let's do better. And we're not backing off. We're committed. Si se puede. And with this, I'd like to introduce Senator Elise
Yes,
Mann.
we can.
Thank you.
Yes, we can. You play it backwards. It says, thank you, Satan.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm Senator Elise Mann, Senate District 50, Bloomington and Edina. So we are here today because today is the day that Republicans are going to take away health care for 17,000 people. Today, they're going to increase our health care costs because hospitals are going to be left picking up the tab and subsequently passing that cost on to taxpayers. Today is the day that we are going to make our healthcare system worse as ER wait times increase and as clinic wait times also increase because the money that hospital systems have to pay for uncompensated care will no longer go to opening up clinic slots and staffing your ERs, your hospitals, and your clinics. And today, of course, is the day that Republicans are going to kill people. Breast cancer, colon cancer.
Did you hear what she said? So now that you have this Democrat who went out and created a kill list and is making good on his word to erase those individuals from the earth on that list, listen to the rhetoric that she is now responsible for this, partly.
Today, of course, is the day that Republicans are going to kill people.
Today is the day that Republicans are going to kill people. So when the killer heard this, and then the very next hour, Melissa voted against this and became a target, he killed her because of what she is saying right now. So if you don't think Democrats are evil, wicked, and violent, it's probably because you're one of them.
Breast cancer, colon cancer, cervical cancer, all of these things will go undiagnosed and people will die. Cruelty dressed up as fiscal responsibility. Republicans have lied and continue to lie about what it costs to provide access to care. $200 million, $600 million by the end of the biennium are the numbers that they keep saying and that we keep reading about. Well, since this racist monstrosity of a bill is likely going to pass.
You hear that? Racism, MAGA. Remember, Donald Trump is a white supremacist. And all you idiot Democrats out there buy all this shit up. You eat it up. You slurp it up like soup. You're like Oliver Twist. Please, sir, can I have some more? That's you. Slurping it up.
Today, we captured those savings in the HHS bill. And there is a line item in there for those savings. The savings that we get for increasing suffering of 17,000 people. Almost $14 million. That's what we're going to save this year. 14, less than 14. And next year it'll be 40. So a grand total of less than $54 million. So shockingly, we are not going to see the $600 million in savings that they keep promising us. The actual numbers are barely.
This account is asking, what is this woman wanting? She's wanting health care paid by the state for illegal immigrants, adults. Children are still covered, but she wants all illegal immigrant adults to have access to taxpayer health care.
Rounding error in the state's budget. And two, we're going to turn around, we're going to double that number, we're going to triple that number, and we're going to give it to the taxpayers to pay for, as again, we have.
Celia says they control people with fear. Well, what it is we all know, we all care about people. But when it comes to Democrats, they pick and choose when they care about people. And truthfully, I don't think they care about anybody. That's why people lined up in the Democratic aisle, because they align with those beliefs. It's kind of idiotic if you think about it, because even the majority of Mexican Americans are against illegal immigration. Like it's just common sense, but it's a big part of their voter base, right? And the Supreme Court just stated that, it's illegal to verify the nationality of a voter, of a U.S. voter. They say it's law now that you have to assume that they're a U.S. citizen. So this is the Democrat Party exploiting that.
Increase in uncompensated care. We're going to have increase to employers who won't have employees to come and show up to work. We're going to have decreased productivity, as people who are ill and who are injured should go and get care and come back to work, but they won't be able to.
Oh, they shouldn't be at work, you fucking idiot.
And of course, we're going to have decrease in tax revenue, because as we heard, this population pays $222 million in taxes, and that's going to decrease when they can't work. We have already.
That is true. They pay a lot in taxes, a lot. Not as much as we pay to cover their cost, but they do pay into it.
Establish that there is no fiscal argument to be made when we take away people's health care. This is pure cruelty, and it is purely political.
The thing is, you have legal immigrants and U.S. citizens who now have to get behind in the line, right? They need health care. We've been paying into this system our entire lives, and we plan on doing it into the future for generations. These people are just coming and going as they please. They're not legally here. Common sense.
As the federal Republicans are taking away the health care and the access to food to American citizens, as they are kidnapping lawful residents off of the streets, as they are mining your data, Minnesota Republicans had to do something. They had to scapegoat someone. And who better to scapegoat than people who just are trying to get by? As history has taught us, who better to scapegoat than immigrants?
Right? Who better to scapegoat them? That's why the Democrats are doing that. That's what they're doing, scapegoating.
We offered, just so everyone knows, so that the chamber knows, so that the people who support Republicans know, we offered them changes to paid leave. We offered them changes to earn and sick and safe time. We offered them changes to the non-compete bans, and they turned all of those things down.
So another thing is, if you're offering all these things for illegal immigration, you're motivating more illegals to come across the border illegally, undermining the legal immigration process, which a lot of people have paid a lot of money into. They've done a lot of hard work, and they've exercised a ton of patience to become a U.S. citizen, just for the Democratic Party to undermine the rule of law. It's disgusting, and it's all wicked, and it's all for power. If you can't see that, you are blind.
Because all they wanted was to make sure that these 17,000 people were left out to die, that we worsened our healthcare system, and that we decreased our tax revenue. That was the goal. I would like to say that it is a sad day in Minnesota, but truly it is a disgusting day in Minnesota.
It's a disgusting day, right? So now remember this. Okay? Remember all that rhetoric. You have Melissa Hortman, after siding with Republicans to get the deal done. If she wouldn't have, they wouldn't have had a budget. So she compromised. She did what she had to do for the benefit of the Minnesota people, the Minnesotans. And she was killed for it 2 days later. Or what is it, 4 days later? Right on the same day of the No Kings organized protest across the United States. What king? Trump can't get any fucking thing pushed through Congress. So Melissa was killed along with her husband by a high-ranking Democrat, a Democratic leader who worked for Walz directly, and probably side by side with this group of posse caucus legislators. So if you agree with this bullshit, it got 2 of your fellow Democrats killed, right? Basically made an example out of. If you vote against us, we will kill your ass.
With that, up next, we have Jose Alvilar.
Yep, that's exactly right, Wabbit. You wascally wabbit. She voted no.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jose Alvilar Hinojosa. I am the lead immigration organizer at Unidos Minnesota. We are a power-building organization committed to advancing social, racial, and economic justice across the state because we believe that everyone deserves better. Because living a fulfilling, dignified life with access to basic human conditions should belong to all of us, not just a privileged few.
It's not privileged. It is all of us. If you're here legally, you moron.
The COVID-19 pandemic made it undeniably clear that every Minnesotan needs access.
Right? The COVID-19 bullshit, the pandemic, the scamdemic. Another Democratic tactic, right? Put out by Fauci. That's been verified. Used to put everybody and tear down Donald Trump. That way, when they steal the election from him, it'll be believed that it was because of COVID and his failures there. So that worked very successfully. Hopefully they don't do that shit again.
To healthcare. Repealing that coverage doesn't move us forward. It drags us backward, which is why healthcare for all was at the forefront of our work. Expanding health coverage wasn't just politically possible in 2023. It was morally necessary. Providing coverage to hardworking Minnesotans, especially immigrant communities that are the backbone of this state and this country, was the right thing to do. But now, the GOP is threatening to repeal the Minnesota Care for All, putting ideology and corporate interest ahead of people's lives. They'd rather gut social safety nets to hand out tax cuts to millionaires and big corporations. But we can't let that happen. We need to continue to stand up, speak out, and fight back for our health, for our communities, and for the future that we all deserve. Thank you.
Up next, I'd like to invite Political Director of SEIU Local Chapter 26, Samantha Diaz.
Thank you, Representative. My name is Samantha Diaz. I am the Political Director of SEIU Local 26. We represent 8,000 security officers, high-rise window cleaners, janitors, and airport passenger service workers. So Minnesotans, let's call this what it is. It is a cruel, calculated betrayal of human decency executed by MAGA extreme Republicans in the Minnesota legislature. The decision to strip our neighbors of access to life-saving care through Minnesota Care has nothing to do with the budget.
And it's not attacking our neighbors. It's not attacking any legal immigration. They are protected. If you have any legal status, you will be affected, which is common sense, people.
This was not about fiscal responsibility. It was about punishment and power. And the people being punished are the ones that work the hardest and earn the least. MAGA Republicans claim to fight for working class Minnesotans, but this move is clear that it's proven otherwise. And for the blue collar workers that have been told that this was done in your interest, you are being lied to. This does nothing to bring down the cost of your own health care. These MAGA Republicans didn't even pretend to engage in real rational arguments. They ignored the billions in tax revenue that undocumented immigrants contribute to the state.
The thing is, they don't want to trade in an increase in tax revenue for overwhelming our programs when it comes to medical and educational. Americans shouldn't have to make that sacrifice. Like, oh yeah, you can totally overwhelm our society, but you're paying into it. All this tax money, we're swimming in it. It's not lowering my taxes. So all you're doing is exhausting those things. Medical, education, things like that.
And they dismissed the data. They weren't here to govern. They were here to punish. They hand billions to corporations and billionaires without blinking. But when it comes
this account says this talk does not fit any way how our leadership should respond after 2 deaths. Well, this was before the vote. This is the group trying to get people to vote for providing medical aid to illegal adults. So this was before the murder. This was June 9th. So they're trying to convince everybody to vote for medical coverage for illegal immigrants. And a couple of the Democrats didn't do it. They voted against it so that they could get the budget done. And they were targeted for it. And this morning at about 2 o'clock, one was shot and his wife was shot. They almost died. Another was shot and killed, and her husband was also shot and killed. And the person is still on the run and was participating in the No Kings protest today. Even had a car filled with flyers.
to a single mom working 2 jobs or an immigrant family trying to survive, they say, no, you don't deserve help. And to our friends in the DFL leadership, we know many of you fought for what was right, but this was a test. And we cannot afford to meet cruelty with compromise.
Okay, I've heard enough of this shit. Let's move on. There's a lot more to hear there. So if you guys want to go watch that, it's titled Legislative Posse Caucus. Posse is capital POCI. Press conference 6/9/25. YouTube, Minnesota House Info. Okay, let's go to Melissa just a few days ago before her murder.
I know that people will be hurt by that vote, and we work very hard to try. I know that people will be hurt by that vote, and we work very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision.
DFL Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman emotional following the House's adjournment from a special session Monday. Hortman was the...
So she paid with her life. She voted with Republicans, and the Democratic Party killed her and her husband for it.
lone DFL lawmaker to cast a vote to cut Minnesota Care access for undocumented immigrants. It's a move she made with a heavy heart.
I did what leaders do. I stepped up and I got the job done for the people of Minnesota.
The bill was deeply unpopular with members of the DFL caucus. Members have repeatedly expressed frustration that the bill was part of a compromise, one that would ensure the necessary GOP votes to pass the rest of the state budget.
We are tremendously disappointed and gut-wrenched at this decision, at this compromise that compromises our communities that are most vulnerable.
Hortman knows.
These are the protesters. Healthcare for immigrants. Immigrants have healthcare. They're leaving out the word illegal immigrants. People who just crossed over like, hey, I'm an American citizen. I live here now because I found my way here. That's just not the way it works, guys.
she let down her own caucus members with the vote.
They're right to be mad at me. I think some of them are pretty angry. I think that their job was to make folks who voted for that bill feel like crap, and I think that they succeeded.
See, so she was intimidated. She wasn't intimidated. They were trying to intimidate her with that bullshit that we were watching. But she put the people of Minnesota first and not illegal immigrants, right? And she was killed for it. This morning at about 3 a.m., she and her husband were killed by somebody that worked directly under Tim Walz. And remember, Tim Walz is the same guy that promoted the BLM riots, where we had police officers murdered and all of Minnesota was basically burned down, burned to the ground.
Over in the Senate, a similar situation unfolded. Senate Majority Leader Erin Murphy forced to vote for a bill she too disagreed with to uphold the integrity of their compromise.
This one hurt. This one is a wound because of its reason. My colleagues across the aisle set this as their number one priority.
Asked whether the move would drive a wedge between her and the rest of her caucus, her DFL colleague, Senator John Marty, quickly stepped to her defense.
As a member of the caucus, she clearly was fighting against it every step of the way. In negotiations, if we wanted a budget, we had to agree to that. She agreed to put one vote for us because of that.
So she's also a target. So she's her name ended up on a kill list in the manifesto. And this guy is running around the streets right now. He might even be in a disguise at the protest. Okay, so who was John Hoffman, sorry. John Hoffman, a Minnesota state senator, and his wife, Yvette, were shot at their home in Champlin, Minnesota, around 2 a.m. this morning. The attack is believed to be a politically motivated assassination attempt linked to the later killing of former House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband. The suspect, 57-year-old Vance Bolter, was impersonating a police officer and driving a fake police vehicle. Hoffman and his wife were wounded, but are recovering after surgery, with authorities cautiously optimistic about their survival. A manifesto found in Bolter's vehicle listed Hoffman and other lawmakers as targets, indicating premeditation. Bolter remains at large, prompting a manhunt and heightened security measures in the area. I mean, how crazy is that? It's wild. That's your Democratic Party for you. Everybody wants to talk shit about conservatives and things like that. I mean, look at this disgusting shit, and they're still sticking up for it. I guarantee a lot of Democrats out there are happy, like thinking, hey, that's what you get. Probably even calling her a bitch. That's what you get, bitch. These people are evil. Minnesota Senators Tina Smith and Amy Klobuchar, two other Democrats who were on the kill list. Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer has asked Capitol Police to immediately increase security for Senators Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith from Minnesota, following the politically motivated attacks on state legislators. So you think they're going to want to vote against that anything again in the future, right? They were definitely made an example out of. If you vote against us, we will kill you. We will assassinate you. We will dress up like a police officer, slime our way into your home and kill you and your husband if you ever vote against us again. I am continuing to closely monitor the devastating and developing situation in Minnesota, Schumer said in a statement early Saturday afternoon. This morning, I spoke with both Senators Klobuchar and Smith. In light of this horrifying attack, I asked Capitol Police, as I did earlier this week for Senator Padilla, to immediately increase security for both senators. In Senator Padilla's case, the guy who was arrested for interrupting Trump's press conference, nobody was targeting him. You know, Schumer's trying to act like Republicans are going to go out and try to kill Senator Padilla. That's never happened. No threats were ever made. But it's the Democratic Party who is the violent one. People need to realize that. That's the truth. I have a picture of him. Let me pull it up. Vance Bolter. This is him right here.
Again, good morning, Police Chief Mark Brewer, Brooklyn Park Police Department. The question is, how did we get to Representative Hortman's house, and it was proactively or not? The circumstances that unfolded in Brooklyn Park this morning is that we assisted the Champlin Police Department on a shooting. That shooting was made aware by one of our sergeants that it was at Senator Hoffman's home. In hearing that very intuitive sergeant asked our officers to go check on Melissa Hortman's home, representative that lives in our community, just proactively as due diligence to swing by. That police officer and his partner pulled down the street. When they arrived at Melissa's house, they noticed that there was a police vehicle in the driveway with the lights, emergency lights on, and what appeared to be a police officer at the door coming out of the house. When our officers confronted them, the individual immediately fired upon the officers, who exchanged gunfire, and the suspect retreated back into the home.
Was this an actual police officer or impersonating police officer?
Yes, the question is, was it a real person or a person impersonating a police officer? It was not a real police officer. This is somebody that clearly had been impersonating a police officer, again, using the trust of this badge and this uniform to manipulate their way into the home.
So Chief Early, Janice Rural Care 11, the person not only was wearing
They're all dirty.
police officer, when they approached their victims, they had a car with lights and sirens?
Yes, the question is what kind of vehicle, how were they dressed? They did drive a vehicle that looked exactly like an SUV squad car. It was equipped with lights, emergency lights that looked exactly like a police vehicle. And yes.
See, this is something that was well planned out and well thought out, very premeditated.
They were wearing a vest with taser, other equipment that would, a badge very similar to mine, that no question, if they were in this room, you would assume that they are a police officer.
Chief, related to that story that needs to see, can you describe the moments after that played out? You said the person went into the home, and then can you help us understand the next 10, 15 minutes of how we got to where we're at now?
Yeah, briefly, although I'm just going to remind us that this is an absolute active investigation. We have thousands of people sheltered in place in the city of Brooklyn Park right now. We are in an extensive manhunt involving hundreds and hundreds of police officers and SWAT teams searching, gridding off areas, as we believe confidently the suspect had fled out the back of the house after being confronted by the police. Very briefly, after the officers had exchanged gunfire and the suspect retreated into Melissa's home, they immediately went up to the threshold and looked in and seen a male that was down, clearly had been struck by gunfire. They made limited penetration, grabbed a hold of the male and drug him out to safety to attempt first aid. However, he was pronounced dead shortly after that. At that point, the officers surrounded the house, got additional resources and SWAT resources, and then ultimately went in with a drone identifying a female in the home.
They killed their own. She voted with Republicans and was killed for it. What do you think future Democrats are going to do? They're going to be hesitant to do what they know needs to be done for their constituents. They're going to think about Melissa and what happened to her and her husband for voting with the Republicans. Let's see. I think I have another piece of that press conference.
Christina Bogoyevich with the Minnesota State Patrol. Given the targeted shootings of state lawmakers that happened overnight, we are asking the public to not attend today's planned demonstrations across Minnesota out of an abundance of caution.
Okay, what is she talking about? What planned demonstrations? The same demonstrations that the killer, who was a well-known Democratic leader, who created a kill list of people, of Democrats, he's killing his own, who voted with Republicans. This same assassin in his vehicle had a stack of flyers for the No Kings protests that are scheduled for today. The No Kings protests are planned nationwide demonstration against President Donald Trump's policies, coinciding with his 79th birthday, Flag Day, and a military parade in Washington, D.C., marking the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary, organized by groups like Indivisible, the 50501 movement, and the ACLU. The protest aimed to reject what organizers called Trump's authoritarianism, citing actions like mass deportations, court defiance, and civil rights attacks. Over 2,000 events were planned across all 50 states, Puerto Rico, and some international locations, with major rallies in cities like Philadelphia, New York, and Chicago, but deliberately none in D.C. to avoid confrontations with the parade. In Minnesota, however, the No Kings Day rallies were disrupted following the assassination of former House Speaker Melissa Hortman and the shooting of State Senator John Hoffman earlier that day. The Minnesota State Patrol urged the public not to attend the planned protest due to safety concerns, as authorities were still searching for the suspect, Vance Bolter, who was linked to the politically motivated attacks. This development likely shifted focus from the protest in Minnesota to the ongoing manhunt and heightened security measures nationwide. Organizers emphasized nonviolence. Bullshit. Bullshit. All right, let me see if I missed anything here. Okay, Minnesota Care is what she voted against. Okay, Minnesota Care, one word, capital C on the care. A state-funded health insurance program for low-income Minnesota residents. Expanded eligibility to include undocumented immigrants starting January 1st, 2025, following the 2023 Minnesota Care Immigrant Inclusion Act. This allowed undocumented residents meeting income requirements at or below 200% of the federal poverty guidelines. For example, $30,120 for an individual or $62,400 for a family of four in 2025 to enroll, regardless of immigration status. Enrollees pay premiums based on income, typically a $0 to $28 per person monthly, and receive coverage for services like doctor visits, hospitalizations, prescriptions, and dental care. However, this expansion was repealed on June 9th, 2025, during a special legislative session. The bill passed 68 to 65. So it only passed because a couple of these Democrats made it possible. And they've been targeted. One was killed and another shot, and his wife shot. And in the House, it was a 37 to 30 in the Senate, making undocumented adults ineligible for Minnesota Care starting January 1st, 2026. The decision was part of a budget compromise to avoid government shutdown, driven by Republican concerns over cost of prioritization of state resources. Approximately 20,000 undocumented adults, including 24% who are children, were enrolled, with claims costing $3.9 million from January to April 2025. Republicans claimed costs could reach $550 to $600 million over 4 years, while Democrats and hospital groups argued that providing preventative care reduces expensive emergency room visits, as federal law requires hospitals to treat all patients, regardless of status. Undocumented children remain eligible. Pitbull Mom says there's no Kings protest going on here in Bloomington. Yep, here in Phoenix too. It's 110 degrees today. So, I mean, if you want to be out there cooking, go for it. Yeah, I don't think so either, Mustang. And that's the point. Ideological subversion is designed to bring down the United States. The subverter is a powerful enemy of ours, and the Democratic Party are the projection of that enemy. They are the ones who have been subverted and manipulated and used against their own, as a pawn against their own country. It's kind of sad, really. Also, that some Democrats can stay in power. Yep, we're knee deep in this subversion. We're at the tail end of it. You know, you plant a tree, it kind of sprouts. You got a little seedling, and then you got your first leaves, and then you got your branches, and it starts to set its roots and becomes this big tree, and then starts to bear fruit. We're in that state. We're in that stage of the ideological subversion. We're at the bearing fruit stage, which is very dangerous. Because that means we're dealing with a very patient enemy. Celia, it's going to be 90 degrees like tomorrow, and the next day I'm over here in Santa Barbara, California. Yeah, it was 107 at today by noontime, so it's got to be at least 110. Yeah, don't let anybody steal your love. And that's what they're trying to exploit. Don't you care about these people? Nothing's free, guys. Nothing. Nothing is free. All right. I think that's going to do it. You guys have anything to add in the chat? I covered everything that I wanted to. Kind of making it clear what the No Kings protest is all about, how Minnesota was affected. It's almost the same reason why Tim Walz was selected as Kamala's running mate. Minnesota is a hot spot for Democratic treachery. All right. And if you're part of the replay crew and you have a comment or you want to get a hold of me, leave a comment underneath and I'll get to you. And if you have a question for me directly, send it to sleuthintuition@gmail.com. We will be going live again tonight, guys. More true crime based, even though this was kind of a mixture of politics and true crime. It's just disgusting that you have a whole 40% of the country supporting this behavior and being manipulated by it. It's very concerning. But I'm just glad that it's very clear to you guys what's going on. That does bring me some comfort. So I'll see you guys again very soon. Thanks for hanging out. And don't do anything I wouldn't do. Peace.